Welcome to January 13, and today we will be reading from Genesis 13, Psalms 13, Joshua 13, and then we'll be reading from Matthew 10, verses 24 to 42. Let's begin with our word for the day, and that's coming from Genesis 13, verses 10 and 11. It says, "And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. So Abram and his nephew Lot, they'd both become incredibly wealthy. And honestly, this was mostly because of Abram and the blessing that was on him, so everybody that was with him got blessed. In the process, Lot was blessed also, tremendously so. And because of that, the land could not provide for all of them together. They had so many people following the both of them, and they had so many sheep and livestock, so much going on that they needed to separate. And so Abram, even though he was the senior of the two, Lot was his nephew, even though he could have easily chosen, and he's probably the more powerful of the two, he could have chosen whatever he wanted. He humbly told Lot, "You go ahead and choose, and I'll take whatever you don't choose." This is just a wonderful example of humility. And so what does Lot do? Lot chooses the place that looks the most beautiful. In fact, it says that it looks like the Garden of Eden. So it looks wonderful to his eyes, and he makes that choice, and he goes on with his life. Now, this is the pretty trap. This is something that we'll see over and over again in humanity. We choose according to our eyes. We make choices according to our eyes. And usually, the enemy uses that against us. If it looks too good to be true, it's probably not true. This is called deception. So what Lot didn't consider was the culture that he was moving into. Here we see Lot in massively overflowing prosperity. Next time we see Lot, he's locked into his house, fearfully locked into his house with his wife and daughters, and there's a gang of violent perverts banging on his door. Unfortunately, we see Lot go into this beautiful land as incredibly prosperous, everything going for him, right? When we see him come out of that land, what does he have? You'll see it as we're reading through the Bible, but he comes out with just the clothes on his back. His wife doesn't even make it. Just his two daughters. And we'll also see that his daughters were corrupted by the place that he chose to live. It's really a very sad situation. And that's, unfortunately, how many of our lives go as we make these choices according to what looks appealing to our eyes, what looks desirable to our eyes, what looks delightful to our eyes. It's the pretty trap. So notice, though, that Abram humbly took the less appealing option. Yet in faith, he received it and he walked into it. He prospered in the less prosperous choice. I'll say that again. He prospered in the less prosperous choice. Why is that? Because God makes all the difference. 1 Samuel 16:7 says, and this is the English Standard Version, "But the Lord said to Samuel, 'Do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart.'" Now, this scripture was the Lord telling Samuel, as he was going and picking the next king, not to make the choice according to how the people looked. Because he was looking at all of David's brothers, and David's brothers looked like a bunch of amazing, strong, handsome, tall studs. But God said, no. We're not looking at their outward beauty. We're not looking at their charisma. We're not looking at their strength. We're not looking at their height. He said, I have rejected them. And he goes on to say that man looks at appearances, God looks at the heart. And it's the same way when we look at this land. From Lot's perspective, looking with his eyes, the land looked perfect. But God had rejected that land because of its deep corruption within the people and in the spiritual realm. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. This is the pretty trap that humanity keeps getting stuck in. In the Garden of Eden, Eve ate the fruit because she saw that it was a delight to her eyes. It says that in Genesis 3:6. It looked pretty. When we're making choices, we need to always be mindful that looks can be, and often are, deceiving. It's a trap. To the world around us and to our own selfish desires, the pretty thing seems like the obvious choice. This is why we follow the Lord and not our eyes and desires. When we choose the pretty trap, we're lucky if we make it out alive, like Lot. We really bring so much destruction upon our lives and the people around us and the people who follow us. What happened to all of the entourage that Lot had? We don't know. When we choose to follow the Lord, he says he will show us the promise. So we don't choose because we see. We go in trusting that he will show us. We choose because we have faith in him. So do we choose by what we see or how the Lord sees? If we do it according to how the Lord sees, it's only going to happen as we trust him and walk in faith. 1 John 2:16, English Standard, says, "For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world." Genesis 13. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north into the Negev, along with his wife and Lot and all they owned. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. From the Negev, they continued traveling by stages toward Bethel, and they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai, where they had camped before. This was the same place where Abram had built the altar, and there he worshipped the Lord again. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also become very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and many tents. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot, with all their flocks and herds living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. At that time, Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Finally, Abram said to Lot, "Let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want the land to the left, then I'll take the land on the right. If you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go to the left." Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom and settled among the cities of the plain. But the people of this area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. After Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, "Look as far as you can see in every direction, north and south, east and west. I am giving all this land, as far as you can see, to you and your descendants as a permanent possession. And I will give you so many descendants that like the dust of the earth, they cannot be counted. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you." So Abram moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. There he built another altar to the Lord. Psalm 13. O Lord, how long will you forget me? Forever? How long will you look the other way? How long must I struggle with anguish in my soul, with sorrow in my heart every day? How long will my enemy have the upper hand? Turn and answer me, O Lord my God. Restore the sparkle to my eyes, or I will die. Don't let my enemies gloat, saying, "We have defeated him." Don't let them rejoice at my downfall. But I trust in your unfailing love. I will rejoice because you have rescued me. I will sing to the Lord because he is good to me. Joshua 13. When Joshua was an old man, the Lord said to him, "You are growing old, and much land remains to be conquered. This is the territory that remains, all the regions of the Philistines and the Geshurites, and the larger territory of the Canaanites, extending from the stream of Shihor on the border of Egypt northward to the boundary of Ekron. It includes the territory of the 5 Philistine rulers of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The land of the Avites in the south also remains to be conquered. In the north, the following area has not yet been conquered: all the land of the Canaanites, including Mearah, which belongs to the Sidonians, stretching northward to Aphek on the border of the Amorites. The land of the Gebalites and all of the Lebanon mountain area to the east, from Baal-Gad below Mount Hermon to Lebo-Hamath, and all the hill country from Lebanon to Misrephoth-Maim, including all the land of the Sidonians. I myself will drive these people out of the land ahead of the Israelites. So be sure to give this land to Israel as a special possession, just as I have commanded you. Include all this territory as Israel's possession when you divide the land among the 9 tribes and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Half the tribe of Manasseh and the tribes of Reuben and Gad had already received their grants of land on the east side of the Jordan, for Moses, the servant of the Lord, had previously assigned this land to them. Their territory extended from Aroer on the edge of Arnon Gorge, including the town in the middle of the gorge, to the plain beyond Medeba, as far as Dibon. It also included all the towns of King Sihon of the Amorites, who had reigned in Heshbon, and extended as far as the borders of Ammon. It included Gilead, the territory of the kingdoms of Geshur and Maacah, all of Mount Hermon, all of Bashan as far as Salekah, and all the territory of King Og of Bashan, who had reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. King Og was the last of the Rephaites, for Moses had attacked them and driven them out. But the Israelites failed to drive out the people of Geshur and Maacah. So they continue to live among the Israelites to this day. Moses did not assign any allotment of land to the tribe of Levi. Instead, as the Lord had promised, their allotment came from the offerings burned on the altar to the Lord, the God of Israel. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. Their territory extended from Aroer on the edge of the Arnon Gorge, including the town in the middle of the gorge, to the plain beyond Medeba. It included Heshbon and the other towns on the plain, Dibon, Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal Meon, Jehaz, Kedemoth, Mephath, Kiriathaim, Sibmah, Zereth Shahar on the hill above the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jeshimoth. The land of Reuben also included all the towns of the plain and the entire kingdom of Sihon. Sihon was the Amorite king who had reigned in Heshbon and was killed by Moses along with the leaders of Midian, Evi, Rakem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, princes living in the region who were allied with Sihon. The Israelites had also killed Balaam, son of Beor, who used magic to tell the future. The Jordan River marked the western boundary for the tribe of Reuben. The towns and their surrounding villages in this area were given as a homeland to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the tribe of Gad. This territory included Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, and half of the land of Ammon, as far as the town of Aroer, just west of Rabbah. It extended from Heshbon to Ramath Mizpeh and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the territory of Lo-debar. In the valley were Beth Haharam, Beth Nimrah, Succoth, Zaphon, and the rest of the kingdom of King Sihon of Heshbon. The western boundary ran along the Jordan River, extended as far north as the tip of the Sea of Galilee, and then turned eastward. The towns and their surrounding villages in this area were given as a homeland to the clans of the tribe of Gad. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the half-tribe of Manasseh. Their territory extended from Mahanaim, including all of Bashan, all the former kingdom of King Og, and the 60 towns of Jair in Bashan. It also included half of Gilead and King Og's royal cities of Ashtaroth and Edrei. All this was given to the clans of the descendants of Machir, who was Manasseh's son. These are the allotments Moses had made while he was on the plains of Moab, across the Jordan River, east of Jericho. But Moses gave no allotment of land to the tribe of Levi, for the Lord, the God of Israel, had promised that he himself would be their allotment. Matthew 10:24 through 42. Students are not greater than their teacher, and slaves are not greater than their master. Students are to be like their teacher, and slaves are to be like their master. And since I, the master of the household, have been called the prince of demons, the members of my household will be called by even worse names. But don't be afraid of those who threaten you, for the time is coming when everything that is covered will be revealed, and all that is secret will be made known to all. What I tell you now in the darkness, shout abroad when daybreak comes. What I whisper in your ear, shout from the housetops for all to hear. Don't be afraid of those who want to kill your body. They cannot touch your soul. Fear only God, who can destroy both soul and body in hell. What is the price of 2 sparrows? 1 copper coin? But not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. And the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows. Everyone who acknowledges me publicly here on earth, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But everyone who denies me here on earth, I will also deny before my Father in heaven. Don't imagine that I came to bring peace to the earth. I came not to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Your enemies will be right in your own household. If you love your father or mother more than you love me, you are not worthy of being mine. Or if you love your son or daughter more than me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. Anyone who receives you receives me, and anyone who receives me receives the Father who sent me. If you receive a prophet as one who speaks for God, you will be given the same reward as a prophet. And if you receive righteous people because of their righteousness, you will be given a reward like theirs. And if you give even a cup of cold water to one of the least of my followers, you will surely be rewarded.